Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic video. Happy Thursday. It is about 10 o'clock on a nice spring day. It's starting to feel like it's finally spring. Super, super awesome. Just figured I'd talk before I get into this new fabulous movie that I'm about to review. This is a movie again that I saw once or twice, I think, as a kid. I just recently bought it, and I realized when I found it in the store, when I got it at Bull Moose, my favorite shop, there was I was looking at the cover and a couple things, and it looked something about it was really familiar. I was like, I think I've seen this before. I probably saw this, I don't know, 20 years ago, or whatever. And then I watched it. I watched it the other night, and then I realized I did see it a few times when I was a kid, and I remember it was one of those movies, one of those examples of a film that back in the days of VHS I would see, as a kid in the aisles in the horror section, and it had this really awesome artwork, and that was part of the magic back then, was seeing all of the VHS tapes on display in the horror section, and you would judge everything by the cover, and it was and I remember when I watched this movie the other night, some of it came back to me. I was like, oh, I definitely did see this a few times as a kid, and I always loved this movie. But again, it had been so many years, so many years since I've seen it, and I bought this Blu-ray edition. So super excited. So in a minute, I'll get to the movie. But usually, I don't know. I like to mix things up with the channel and talk about a few other things. But I just figure I'd give an update with some quantum stuff coming up. We have some shows coming up pretty soon. We uh, we have, starting next month in May. We uh, we have some shows coming up with the band Quantum. I'm pretty excited about the summer season, spring summer season. And so on May 6th, we will be on the radio. We're going to be doing like a live concert. I think probably about an hour to a 45-minute set, and it's going to be on a Saturday, and it's going to be on May 6th, and that's going to be on a local radio station, WRFR, down in Rockland, Maine. Very cool place. I played there last year with another band. We played live on the radio with another band called Bone Broth that I've been playing with. So, and my friend Spencer Roulard has an electronic radio show, or a radio show on WRFR, and he pretty much focuses on all electronic music. He also performs on his show a lot. He has his own project, his own band called Method for Madness, which is really cool stuff. It's all modular based synth stuff. And he usually does like, I think he usually mixes up his show quite a bit, where he will play play other people's tracks and other albums and things in that genre, but a lot of the times he'll do sets of his own music, like kind of live in the studio. So we're going to be on his show on May 6th, and that's going to be probably, I think, around 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And I'll be doing, once we get the exact time set up, there'll be some promotion and stuff you'll see on Facebook and a couple other platforms. And we'll be doing like an hour set or so of doing, just playing a set of our tracks live. So that'll be a lot of fun, and it's funny too because I think of our relationship, or even my relationship to playing on radio stations. usually like here in Maine, it's pretty low tech, and a lot of the radio stations that I've played at here in Maine, for the most part, are volunteer run, so they're grassroots oriented kinds of things. So they're traditionally not, like a fully realized studio. They're not totally prepared to have live music, but it's usually done out of passion, and for the most part, it's been good. But we actually, as Quantum, and for myself, we actually got our start as a band playing on the radio. That was my first gig, you know, um, pretty much, to a degree in public, was on the radio. I had played, we did we did about 3 or 4 concerts or stints on the radio when we the first few years that Quantum became a band, and we played a series of shows on WERU in Blue Hill, and that was a lot of fun. And I look back at that period as being, I don't know, a really important period for our band, because that was a test run. Really, it was a big test to see if we could, make sense of all of this craziness, and if we could actually, if it was, I was judging everything on seeing if we could actually make this work into a band. So my very first gig with Quantum was on WERU, and then with over a period of and that went really well, and it kind of gave me a little bit of a drive to push myself into making it even more into a reality. I figured, okay, I can make this work in a live setting. So we ended up doing a series. We did, I think, 2 or 3 other shows after that, in like the following years. So I have a real big nostalgic thing, and a personal kind of connection to the live radio show thing, because that's how we gave birth to this whole weird thing. So stay tuned for that. That will be on May 6th. And then on May 12th, we will be doing a show at the Poor Farm with Quantum. We're going to be playing that show, and it's going to be just us, and it's going to be like a 2-hour slot, and it's going to be on Friday, May 12th at the Poor Farm, which is in Union, Maine, and it's a really awesome place. We live in Maine, and there's a whole bunch of really great microbreweries that started popping up over the last 4 or 5 years or so. And there's some amazing places. And I have a little bit of a history with the Poor Farm. I've played there quite a few times. We've done about 3 Quantum shows there in the past. We've always had a really great time. We played there in I think it was January. It wasn't all that long ago. January, February. And it was it was a very cold day. Obviously it was winter time. It was the middle of winter, and we played a show, so we ended up playing inside. So, but hopefully with the weather getting better, we will hopefully be able to play outside. They have this gorgeous deck, and for my money, they make the best microbrewed beer around. It's a beautiful place. They have music all the time. They've done a lot for the local arts, and we've played there a few times. Played about 3 shows there, and it's always been a blast. So, really looking forward to playing there, and that's going to start at 5:30. So I just put up some promotional things for that show that's coming up. So look to see, there'll be even more promotional things coming up for that. And then on May 19th, which is a Friday, that's the big start to the All Roads Festival in Belfast, which is a pretty big deal for Belfast in general, and I think it's a pretty big deal for music in Maine in general, especially around original artists. The All Roads Festival has been going on for, I believe, maybe 3 or 4 years, probably 4 years, And it's basically a music festival that is kind of centered on, indie artists that are doing original material. And they also showcase lots of groups here in the Mid Coast, lots of groups from Portland, and then they also bring in touring bands, bands from out of state. But for the most part, it's focused on Maine music, and it's all original music, and it runs a pretty broad spectrum. There's it's mostly it's mostly like an indie rock kind of a setting, but they have indie rock, folk. They also have some electronic music, and some world music, folk music, and some things that are a little bit on the experimental side. But it's a pretty cool festival because the primary focus of it is all original music. So I'm very very excited that we were able to get uh, a slot with this festival this year, and we will be playing on May 19th at Marshall Wharf, the Three Tides in Belfast, which is a such a great place. Another microbrewery right on the water. Probably the best reason to go to Belfast. It's such a cool place. Beautiful spot, and I've played some gigs there. This will be our first time playing there as Quantum, and we will be going on about like 9:30 at night. I think we're going to be the second to last band, and it's going to be the opening day, opening night of the Free Range Festival. So very excited about that. We're going to be playing a 45-minute set for that slot, and then also on uh, May 20th we will be doing a second slot at the All Roads Festival, which will be about 4 o'clock, and the Saturday show will be taking place at the Underground Lounge, which is a newer venue that just opened this past year, and it's part of the new Maskers Theatre in Belfast. I've been going to shows there. I've been to a few shows there, and I got a chance to play there, to play one gig there with Bone Broth. I'm actually going there tonight to see some live music. This local punk band called Random Ideas is playing there. They're going to be playing at 7 o'clock tonight, and it's a really great venue, beautiful spot, real intimate, and I'm really excited that we're going to be playing there with the All Roads Festival there. So that will be on on May 20th, the day after. So yeah, at 4 o'clock. So stay tuned for that. So pretty excited about that. And then the next show coming up after that will be on June 2nd. Quantum will be playing at the Gypsy Rose Tavern in Camden, Maine, which is another new venue that just opened this year. Really, really fabulous place, great food, and they've been really, really doing a lot of helping out and showcasing all of this cool music that's been going on here in Mid Coast. So this will be we played there a few months. I think it was in January. We played a show there with Quantum. So this will be our second time there, and it'll be interesting to see how things go because now it's been going. It's been it's kind of, I feel like the place is coming into its own because it just opened in January. So we'll be playing on Friday, June 2nd at the Gypsy Rose Tavern in Camden, Maine, and that will be a 7 o'clock show, and that's going to be a longer set, a 3-hour set. So stay tuned for that. So I'm really excited about that. And then on June 25th, which will be on a Sunday, Quantum will be playing at the uh, Camden Amphitheater, which is a gig that we've done for quite a few years, pretty much since the inception of the band. We've always set up these concerts, usually every summer, where we played the amphitheater in Camden, and it's an amazing spot. We usually do a 2-hour set, and it's outside. It's such a beautiful location, and great acoustics, beautiful environment, and that's going to be at 1 o'clock. and that's going to be on the 25th of June at the Camden Library. So stay tuned for that. Very excited about that show. So very excited. And then on July 30th, Quantum will be playing at Primo Restaurant in Rockland, Maine. And that Primo Restaurant is just an incredible restaurant. I mean, really, probably pound for pound, the best restaurant in Maine. But just an amazing place. That will also be an outdoor show, and we're going to be playing at 2 o'clock, and that will be a 2 hour set. And yeah, an amazing place, and that's on a Sunday, and that's going to be on July 30th. So really excited about that. I'm really excited that we were able to get into that venue. So very, very cool. So yeah, we got some things coming up, and there's going to be some more things coming up down at some point down the pike here. So those are some gigs that are coming up right now, and so pretty excited about these shows. One other thing that kind of putting together and thinking about more and more is a possible maybe like a release party for this next album, which is going to be the sequel to Chapter 2 or to Chapter 1 in Dreams I Saw, which we released in June of last year. Which came out early June, so we recorded 2 albums. We recorded the music about a year ago, and it came out to where we realized we have a lot of music, so we were going to originally do a double album, but then we broke it up, and we released the first part, Chapter 1, Dreams I Saw, in June of last year. So we have the second one ready to go, and so we're trying to see how things go. Some things present themselves, maybe some other opportunities, and we will if things present themselves in a cool way, we will definitely like have a release show for that album as well, and that will be in Dreams I Saw Chapter 2. So super excited about that prospect, and that's going to be something that we're that's a possibility, and just something we're kind of weighing into. So yeah, so those are just some updates in the wacky world of Quantum. So that brings me to the main point of today's show. So today's show is about this glorious exploitation movie called Razorback, and it's an Australian movie. It came out in 1984. What a great year. Again, it's always a thing of where whenever most of the exploitation movies that I cover on this channel always tend to be from really my two favorite decades, and that is the 70s and the 80s. I just love those two decades. It was a golden period for cinema. The grindhouse cinema experience was alive and kicking. People were going to the movie theaters. People were paying a ticket and going in and watching 2 or 3 movies back to back with all the trashy trailers in between. It was the heyday of 42nd Street in New York City, which was the mecca for exploitation. All the glorious sleazy theaters. That's a period where if I had access to a time machine, that would be probably the first place I would go to. And it's interesting. I have a really great documentary. One of my favorite slasher exploitation movies of all time, Pieces, which I think is just such an amazing movie. And it's a Spanish exploitation movie, but it was huge. It was really popular in the world of exploitation, and even outside of that, even really in horror in general. But just an amazing movie, just one of my all-time favorites. And I have Pieces on Blu-ray, which is just an amazing package. But there's a really amazing documentary on that package about 42nd Street. And what it was like to be in New York in the mid to late 70s into the mid to late 80s when all those all of the theaters were happening, all of the grindhouse theaters were happening, and you had all of the porn theaters that were going on, and there was it was very a very different time in New York, and I've just uh, it's fascinating, such a fascinating time, especially for these kinds of movies. You could see these movies, you know, any day, any time of the day or any time of the night, and it was the only way that you could see these movies, and just an amazing period. But this movie, like I said in the very beginning of the show, this was a movie I remember seeing as a kid quite a few times. It's got it's got such a cool cover. This is the original artwork for Razorback. This is an Australian movie, and it's definitely a full-on exploitation movie. It's kind of a weird knockoff of Jaws. Jaws came out in the 70s, and this was like really the filmmakers really tried to make their own version of Jaws, but set in Australia and made for a lot less money. And it was directed by Russell McCary, who was a pretty famous director in the world of exploitation in the 70s and also in the 80s. But this disc itself is really great. It's got all kinds of special features on here. I got this really cheap. Um, got a really great deal with this. Super excited with this. I and this was a film again like that I saw when I was a kid, and I was enamored by the artwork. You know, going through the aisles as a kid, and when I first I just picked this up probably 2 weeks ago, and I went to Bull Moose in Waterville. Yeah, that's where I got it. Bull Moose, again, my favorite shop on planet Earth, and my favorite shop overall is uh, the shop in Waterville. I really love, and I've been going a little bit more often to the one in Brunswick. The one in Brunswick's really great too, but they both have just tremendous movie selections, especially when it comes to these exploitation movies. So I just watched this the other night, and I had seen it since I was a kid, and I was like, oh yeah, I definitely did see this, but for the most part, about 80% of the film I had forgotten, and never saw it on Blu-ray and or 4K. So it was that like that experience of seeing it for the first time, but such an awesome movie. It's super gritty, it's super raw. It's Australian, so it has this. There's elements of this movie where it reminds me of like a George Miller film, aka the Road Warrior franchise. There's these characters in this film that are just like super sleazy, and they're they're kind of these crazed criminals, but it's an awesome movie, and it's got a lot of like Australian humor in it. It was all shot in Australia. Pure, the whole cast is Australian. Just a fabulous movie. It's super gritty. It's super raw, and the kills are really great. And it's basically centered on this like giant monster creature that's like basically like this razorback, and it's on this killing spree, and it's just annihilating everything that it sees, and it just tears people to pieces. And there's a scene of where one of the victims is like sitting in his house, and the razorback literally charges through the entire house and just shreds the entire house, and it's awesome. And yeah, it's great. It's got a lot of humor too, which is nice. It's very funny, um, and super entertaining. Super entertaining. The transfer of this film on Blu-ray is pretty spectacular, and as well as the sound. This is a really, really great addition to my collection. I was super excited. I got this. It was pretty cheap too, but awesome movie. And again, it was, when I saw this at Bull Moose, I was like, wait, I think I definitely saw this at some point. And lo and behold, I did. I definitely saw this back in the VHS days. Um, that was the best period of my youth. It was a total age of discovery, and many a thousand years later, here I am buying it on Blu-ray, in just like in this impeccable condition, with all of the with it being totally restored and remastered on Blu-ray 4K. It's amazing for being a film collector, especially when it comes to the world of exploitation. It's honestly the best time to be alive, because it's just amazing that these movies that were so obscure and so underground at one point, now they get this treatment. And that was one of the predicaments, and one of the things that was not really great of the VHS time was often the quality. When I saw these films when I was a kid, I didn't have anything to really judge it against. But as I've gotten older, and I'd seen a lot more movies, and then eventually when Laserdisc came out, and then DVDs came out, and then eventually Blu-rays, and then 4K, you start noticing a difference, and then seeing movies in the theater, you start realizing the difference in quality. And looking back at the VHS time period, and I still have lots of VHS tapes, and I still watch them. The quality for certain VHS tapes is great, but for the most part, they're not. When it comes to the world of exploitation, especially in the early days, right in the early '80s, you had a lot of cuts, a lot of films that were edited and cut, and um, the transfers weren't very good. So to see now that these movies get, just this royal treatment is amazing, and you're seeing these movies fully realized, fully restored, with just incredible uh, sight and sound, and also my favorite part of buying these movies is I try to seek out movies that have a really good special features component. I'm a huge fan of finding out about how a particular movie was made, especially if it's a movie I love, or that I discover for the first time. I'm so interested in the process uh, around everything around that film. So I usually seek those out, and that's the other factor about buying these movies now, is that they're. I see it especially with, well, Blu-rays in general. DVDs now, when you rent DVDs or see them, and I still rent DVDs. I've been doing shows on a lot of newer releases lately, and you know, it's the quality's good. The quality's pretty solid. Obviously I prefer Blu-ray over everything, but the quality's pretty decent and good. But as far as special features, there's none. It's non-existent. It's amazing. It's like it's not even a thing anymore. Even for big movies that I've seen lately that have been nominated for Academy Awards, like for instance Todd Field's Tar, which is a really great film, and it was nominated for a bunch of awards, and I think it won some Academy Awards. Highly, highly acclaimed movie. I rented it on DVD, and it had no commentary. It didn't even have a commentary track on it, and it's really sad that because that's due to, I don't know, lack of sales, or studios trying to cut back on things. But when it comes to the world of Blu-rays and 4K, it's totally the opposite. Like a lot of them have extra discs. Like this has at least 2 or 3 hours of bonus features, and it's really in depth, and it's awesome. And that's the thing I seek out as a fan and as a collector of these movies. So I highly recommend this movie. This is an awesome exploitation movie from 1984. It's a really killer slice of Australian exploitation. Definitely a great horror movie. I love this movie. I'm super excited that I bought this, so definitely check this out. Especially if you get a chance to watch it on Blu-ray 4K. It's killer. I mean, really is. So this is Jason Dean, and I want to thank everyone for supporting this channel. And if you like this crazy thing I do, please like and subscribe, and keep the comments coming. I love interacting with other fellow film fanatics. So thanks again. Peace.